right, so it's March 5th, first official day of PDAC on Sunday. We're going to take a walk through the core shack. I think we're going to go visit Midas Gold to start with. Now Midas has the gold and metals deposit in central Idaho. It is the largest undeveloped gold deposit in the States, at least held by a junior mining company. Steve?
Brent, good to see you. How are you doing?
Good, real good. Good to see you. All right, well let's just give me a quick rundown where the project stands, and then we can talk about what you've done in terms of keeping it going forward.
Sure. So where we are at the moment is we got a pre-feasibility finished in December 2014, and during 2015 what we've been doing is getting it ready to start the permitting process, and that involved a sort of a multifaceted strategy. We had some technical things we needed to address post the feasibility that could affect permitting. We need to get our permit application ready. We needed to get our environmental baseline ready, and we needed to talk to communities, people who are interested in the project, to make sure they understood it, and we'd address their concerns. So we did that through 2015. The key last piece of the puzzle is then to get into the permitting process, we had to have the funding in place in order to move into that process, because it's a 3-year process is our guidance, and you need to know you have the funding to go all the way through that process. It's not a on-off again like a drill program where you can decide to drill or not drill. Once you're in, you got to be able to push through that 3-year time period. So the last piece of the puzzle to get in place, which we'd hoped to get in the end of last year, was the funding to go into the permitting process, but we announced a transaction recently which allows us to get in. So the next big step is to get in permitting.
And they're throwing in 40 million?
It's 40 US, 55 Canadian. It's backstopped by John Paulson and Co. But it allows existing shareholders to participate for roughly a third of the transaction, and that third has been fully taken up.
Okay.
So the net result will be post-transaction, post-closing, existing shareholders will own about 70% of the company, and on a fully diluted basis, and Paulson and Co. will own about 30% of the company.
And how far does this $55 million get you?
Basically, what should get us all the way through the permitting process, all the way through feasibility, so basically to the point where you're ready to make a construction decision. So we'll run the feasibility in parallel with the permitting process.
All right, now I've been there.
Sure.
I've been there a lot of times.
Yeah, right.
I don't see any real issues from people living in Yellow Pine.
Correct.
But just over the hill is McCall. So far, you've been pretty stealth. Not stealth, but I don't think you've been had much problems to deal with in terms of NGOs and environmental groups. As this progresses, how is this going to play out? I mean, that's the big concern.
Sure.
that I'm watching, and I assume that's why you got the money laid out ahead. So if that happens, you don't have to deal with it.
You can push on through, and the analogy is Donlin Creek, and Paulson's a big shareholder in Donlin Creek. Is just get it in and then push through the process, and you're not subject to the vagaries of the market. And the projects are different and so on, but it's that kind of approach. But from a community perspective, we've been very active, engaging with all kinds of communities. Both communities as in towns in the county and so on, but meeting with the Indian tribes, NGOs, different groups like that. And we started that sort of 3 years ago. Then we got the PEA out. We outlined, this is the project we think we're going to build. This is an option. What are your concerns? What issues do you have? Actually, somebody in Yellow Pine brought up, well, we don't like this road. Why didn't you use this other road route in? And we said, well, we don't even know that road exists. And the reason we never considered it, there's about a 2 or 3 mile gap in it where it but just that short gap, you can connect this new route. And the advantage it has is you don't drive next to a waterway for the entire route.
That's coming over the hill
from the south side.
And
connecting up what's called the Burnt Log Road, and then it connects to the old Thunder Mountain Road. But the net impact of that is you can be away from waterways for the entire road access route. And so that alleviated concern. So during that consultation process, informal consultation process, we got all that kind of feedback, and then we went back and reintegrated a lot of that into our pre-feasibility study. So post the pre-feas, we then went out again and said, well, you gave us all these comments, they're now in, what other comments do you have? What other concerns do you have? And so, the project is very well understood in the community. Like last year, I can't remember the exact number, but we had about 60 community meetings in Valley County, and it went from inviting people to our meetings to us presenting at things like the Optimist Society and the Rotary Club and things like that. We also took out about 280 community members out to the site. We run tours every weekend when anybody signs up, and we'll take a minimum of 5 or 6 and up to 20 people at one time. So and we did the same the year before as well. So all in all, we've had about 500 people up to site. We have to remember that the population of the county is only about 4,000. So we got a big chunk of the adult population. Yeah. And then when you look into all the other people we've met with, we've been into the schools, high schools, various things like that. The project's very well understood. Doesn't mean everybody loves us. No, you're never going to get to that. But there's a much better understanding of the impacts that are out there, because that's the big eye-opener to people who've never been there. Even though it's only 50 miles from McCall, they get out there and they say, oh, I didn't realize there was this much impact and this much disturbance. Well, that changes my view. I may not particularly like mining in general, but in this case, because you're going to clean it all up, I can support this project.
So what's the one permit I need to watch for to know that you're over the hill? What do I need to watch for?
Well, the main one that will drive the permitting process, it'll be the sort of combination of the 404 permit for the Corps of Engineers, which is wetland permitting, your MPDS permit, which is your discharge of water, and then your approval of your plan of operations under EIS. So those kind of three, they're all integrated together. Right. It's really that federal EIS process that you're going to go through. You have to work your way through, and that'll be the driving force for pulling all of those permits together.
Yeah. And you're estimating about 3 years.
Yeah, about 3-year time frame to go through it, and that's there's a federal study actually just out a couple of weeks ago, which is the average EIS takes about 2 years. Ours is a bigger, more complicated project, so it should take a bit longer than that. When our consultants look at federal EISs for larger mines, the median was about 3 years. So it's that kind of time frame. I mean, there's arguments why we should be able to do it in less, because we've finished our baseline, we've taken everybody out, all the regulators are up to speed, it's a brownfield site, we're cleaning it up, but, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Great.
That's good.
Okay, thanks so much, Brent. Okay.
All right, well that's, I know the project really well. It is one of the few high-grade, high-margin deposits in the States. The permitting process is going to be real tough. I think it's probably doable, but personally, I don't see a lot of reason to buy the stock right now. I'm going to probably wait and just see how the permitting process goes, and if they have any NGO environmental issues along the way, which is possible.